Hmm, I guess I might be live right now. Okay, how you guys doing? My name is Mark. This is Why the World. Let me position all this stuff a little better. Okay, this is my first live stream here. It could be a disaster, so forgive me if I sound like crap and I don't know what I'm doing. But let me see here. Let me see if I'm actually. Yeah, looks like I actually am live.
Yeah, looks like
I can see myself.
Yeah, looks like I can see myself.
Right. Let's turn that off. Okay. Very nice. Anyway, I've been trying to set this thing up for the last hour and stuff, so should be interesting. Please forgive me if you hear noises and shit, or like cars driving by or cats meowing, that kind of thing. What can I do? Okay, folks. So, what should we talk about? I figure I'll take this opportunity to go over a couple of things that would not make good videos. If you see me looking over here, it's because that's where the computer screen is. In fact, you know what? Why don't we kind of arrange this a little bit so I can put this guy in front and the computer screen behind it. Can I zoom out on this thing? I don't know if I can zoom out. No, that doesn't work. How am I going to do this? I don't know. Maybe I should have thought this through a little bit better. But anyway, I'll have to, can I put this on top of the computer monitor? Oh yeah, I can do that. Oh, okay. All right, well, that's good to know. I can just set this guy like right here. Let things fit on there. All right, forgive us, folks. Technical difficulties or whatever. This is what the rest of my room looks like. It's all fucking shit everywhere. Okay, let me try this. All right. Learning experience, folks. Learning experience. Oh, is that thing not going to fit? Come on, fit. Oh, it's bullshit. My computer is like too old and like too thick and stuff. It won't actually like fit on there. Well, it kind of fits. Okay. Yeah, I guess that'll work. I don't know. I'll have to figure this shit out. What can I say? I'm a noob when it comes to this kind of thing. So at least now I'm not looking over here all the time. I'll just sort of look down a little bit. Okay. So I figure I'll take this opportunity to talk about things that you couldn't really do a full video for, kind of like things I don't care about, sort of, kind of. We'll see how it goes, right? Usually when I make these videos, I kind of edit out a lot of the screw ups and that kind of thing. So I don't know, whatever. How long should this go for? Let's say 30 minutes, right? Anyway, so what's happening? I really wanted to make this so that I could stream the background, but I couldn't get that set up. I don't know. Something, my computer here in this room is like a little laptop. It's all old and shit. So I couldn't set the software up on it. I'm gonna have to try harder next time. But fuck it, I didn't want to be fiddling with the shit all night. So let's just move on. Just using the webcam here. Let's see. First thing, the Tesla Cybertruck. Yeah, that. Wow, that's a piece of shit. It looks pretty fucking horrible. I don't know. One thing that I saw from people was that one comment I saw on Reddit was that it kind of looks like a sci-fi version of what people thought future cars would look like. And yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, I don't know. I really wish I could have showed, set up my streaming software here so that we could look at the picture of it. But I'm sure you've seen what it looks like. It's got a, very blocky kind of PlayStation 1 kind of look to it, very angular kind of things going. And I do think some aspects of it look kind of cool, it has this sort of unibeam kind of thing going for the headlights. That actually looks kind of cool. I think they should have played it up more. They should have made it look like something out of Tron, Instead, it looks like something out of a fucking Sega Saturn game, right? Especially the wheels, they're all like weird and blocky and stuff. Like there's a movie, if you've ever seen it, it's called Robot Jocks. It came out in like 1990, I think, by it's by the same guy who made fucking Puppet Master, Charles Brand and shit. And it's about giant robots that go and beat people, beat each other up, that kind of thing. Basically it's like, they use these giant robot gladiator fights instead of war, kind of like Pacific Rim, except they only fight each other. And in the movie, as you can imagine, this movie doesn't have a super huge budget, right? All the budget went to the robots fighting, which admittedly actually looked pretty cool because most of it's like stop motion, so it's got that sort of old timey kind of thing going. Anyway, in the movie, there's the main character has this car, and it looks exactly like the Cybertruck from Tesla. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, basically, it's kind of like what you would think, a future car would look like when you're like 14 years old and shit. Right. If you've never seen Robot Jocks, check it out. It's actually not half bad. So let's see, how much do these fucking things cost? Let's see, I've got the website open here and I've clicked on order now. So let's see how much it is to design and create a, let's see. Wow, self-driving, 69. Okay, so if you want the single motor, it's $40,000, $39,900. Well, this is not too bad, Dual motor, $50,000, and a tri-motor, $69,900. Full self-driving, an extra $7,000. Wow. So you can self-drive. That's kind of scary. That you see these things driving around all by themselves and shit. So if you have a self-driving car, could you send it out, out there into the world? And like, could you like say get like an Uber, kind of license thing, and then send out your truck and have it just work for you and pick people up and drop them off, and like you're not even driving? Like, can you do that? Like, I don't know. That would be actually kind of awesome. I can see that being a business where like, you just buy like 6 or 7 self-driving cars and just have them go out and be your fucking little taxi service. Still a little, I don't know. I'm not really so sure how a lot of that would work as far as self-driving cars go. Like, what if you're, in your self-driving car and you're cruising along, and you're just like watching your phone or whatever, not even paying attention, or like sleeping even. And, your self-driving car is hooked up to Google Maps or something. And, Google Maps thinks that there's a freeway off-ramp here, and there really isn't. And so your car takes a left and goes plowing through a fucking orphanage and runs over 6 or 7 children. Right? Like, who's at fault there? I mean, are you at fault because you're supposed to be driving, but the fucking car is driving? Like, you didn't actually run those children over, the car ran it over. So is it Google's fault for having fucked up maps? Is it the car's fault for not being able to tell, that this is actually not an off-ramp, it's an orphanage? Who goes to prison for that shit? Who gets held responsible? Like, I'm assuming that it's going to be the driver, because there's no fucking way that big powerful corporations like that are going to take on that kind of responsibility. They're not going to be liable for that shit. So the little guy will probably get screwed again. So every time you get in a car accident going forward, what happens if 2 cars hit each other and they're both self-driving? Who's liable for that shit? Right? Is it the car, whatever car made the illegal move? What if none of them made an illegal move? What if both of the things are legal and there was just some, slippery ice or some shit, and that just made a car spin out and fucking, right? I don't know. We'll see how that shit works. That's these are all questions we're going to have to answer, It's a little scary though, if you think about that, how even the very low unskilled labor things are getting automated now. Like, like automation used to be like, okay, I'm some factory worker guy who just takes like this piece and puts a nut on it and puts it back on the conveyor belt, and then a robot comes and does that. but then they can train the factory worker dude to do something else. So now we have like, what is it? Something like 3 million driving jobs are going to be put out of business within the next 20 years. Taxis, fucking truck drivers and dump truck fucking haulers and shit like that. All these guys are going to be put out of business because of self-driving cars. We already have things like cashiers in grocery stores getting put out of jobs. You ever go to a grocery store and they have the self-checkout thing? It's like, now you're fucking doing it yourself. Right. That's fucked up. Or you ever go into a fast food place, McDonald's, for example, and they have, the order menu that you just do it yourself. It's like, kind of shit is that, or even something as innocent as, the Starbucks phone app, where you put in your phone, you put in your drink ahead of time. That's cutting somebody out of the, it makes the restaurant more efficient and all that shit, saves them money, but eventually they don't have to hire another person to run the register. What happens when all of it's like that? How are people going to get jobs? I mean, these are things that you got to think about, and I mean, am I really worried? Kind of. I'm kind of worried, not worried for me, because I, have a good job and I have enough professional experience that I can get another job somewhere else. And I happen to work in an industry, like in a particular niche in my industry, where there's always going to be, work. It might not pay what I want it to pay, but, I'm pretty confident in my own ability to get a job, but I'm not so sure about other people, especially young people coming up, within the next 20 years, right? Because if you think about it, a lot of those jobs are like entry level kind of things. That's where you get your first work experience, doing things like delivering pizza, working in a Starbucks, working in a fast food place, slinging a register and wearing a paper hat. They're shitty jobs, and but that's why they're entry level. It's because anybody can get them. So that's where a lot of teenagers and stuff get their first work experience, right? And that's what they're for. You get work experience, and then you prove that you can hold a job down for a sniff, a little bit, and then you get a better job, and then you get a better job, and so on and so on. Well, if you can't ever get that shitty job to begin with, what are you going to do? And what about the people that actually work those jobs? Like, there's no shame in working a job like that if that's what you can get, and that's all there is in your area, and that's all you're qualified for. And some of these people, they work 2 or 3 of those jobs at a time, because they pay shit. So it's like, that's all you can get. You got to pay your rent somehow, so they fucking get 2 of them. I actually did that myself for a little while, when I was I think 19, 20, 21. I used to work at a pet store, and then I also worked at a coffee place. I worked in a coffee bean and tea leaf. And so I would wake up at 6 a.m. I would go to the mall, right? I would clean up dog shit and dead rats and things like that, in this pet store that was run by, I don't know, I think the guy was a fucking criminal or something, but, this incredibly dirty ass pet store. And then I would leave and I would go straight to the coffee bean and tea leaf with my fucking dirty ass bacteria covered hands and shit. And I would make people drinks. That's what I did. And I did that for like, months and months at a time. And it eventually drove me fucking crazy. But there's some people that have to do that because they have no choice. And, what are they going to do when fucking, all of those entry jobs like that are all automated? It's like, it's something to fucking think about. Better start saving your money, folks, I guess, is the lesson we have here. Anyway, how do we get from Tesla Cybertruck to that? I don't know. Let's move on. Let's see. Other stuff that happened recently. Roger Stone is going to prison. Yeah, that makes me smile, because Roger Stone is a piece of garbage. I'm very happy. He basically got convicted on all counts, lying to Congress being the big one, but also obstruction of justice, right? And yeah, man, it's kind of good to see that, you know, the justice system can actually work sometimes. Now, will he actually go to prison and for how long? I mean, the sentence, the maximum amount of time this guy can get is 50 years, and there's no fucking way that he's going to jail for 50 years, right? I myself would be actually surprised if he gets more than 5 years, right? Because first off, he's like, what, 70, 68, something like that. He's old as fuck, right? So, and he's also a respectable member of the establishment, whatever the fuck that means, right? So it's highly doubtful that they're going to throw him in prison for 50 years, right? But even if he got 5 years, I think that would be good enough to show that, you know, at least a little bit of justice got done. I mean, if I was a judge, I'd sentence his ass fuck 20 years, you know. I'd make him die in prison for all the fucking shenanigans this piece of shit has caused, you know, pulled over the years, right? I mean, this guy, you know, basically that's what the word rat fucker was invented for, was for people like Roger Stone. This is the kind of guy that cheats for a living, and not just cheats in his personal life. The effects of him cheating in politics reverberates right throughout the fucking world, and results in people like Donald Trump getting elected, which results in people dying. Okay, you gotta remember that. You know, Donald Trump, whenever he bombs somebody with a fucking drone or some shit like that, or whenever he, you know, I think he actually, like, he took troops from the Middle East and put them on the southern border, and then was surprised when he couldn't order them to shoot civilians, you know, shoot people crossing the border. You know, that's real shit. And then I think he said, he directed them, you know, like he said something like, how come we can't shoot them in the legs or whatever? Yeah, let's just maim him, you know. Okay, I'm not actually killing the guy, I'm just shooting his kneecaps off. That's who Roger Stone helped. You know, Roger Stone is partially responsible for that shit, because he fucking helped this guy get elected, you know. So yeah. Now some people are saying, well, Trump might pardon him. I doubt it. I don't think he's going to pardon him, because number one, he probably would have pardoned all his other people that have gone to prison so far, right? He hasn't pardoned any of those guys, you know, Paul Manafort or Michael Cohen or whatever. Even though Michael Cohen has kind of turned on him, but still, you know, all the other guys that have been busted and gone to prison for his ass, he hasn't pardoned any of those people, right? Secondly, if he pardons Roger Stone, then that means Roger Stone loses his ability to take the fifth. See, if you get pardoned, right, and you accept the pardon, that means you're admitting to guilt. Okay, so if he pardons Roger Stone, then a federal prosecutor can haul Roger Stone in front of a grand jury and question him, and Roger Stone cannot plead the fifth to anything. He has to talk, right, and thereby, you know, implicate the president in various crimes that he's done. And if he tries to take the fifth, or if he lies, he goes back to prison, and then he can't be pardoned anymore. Okay, that's, you know, that's why I don't think, at least the Trump's lawyers are telling him to pardon Roger Stone. That's why, you know, we might get something like on the last day of Trump's presidency, but even then, I don't think he's going to do it. I don't think he's going to do it because Trump can be, you know, indicted after he leaves office, right? And if he leaves office and, you know, pardons Roger Stone, and then Roger Stone is made to testify against him, that's bad news for him. So I think Roger Stone is probably going to go to prison for a little while. He's probably going to end up serving his sentence, just mainly for the fact because Trump is not going to take a bullet for him. That's what happens when you back somebody who's a narcissist and who doesn't give a fuck about anybody but themselves, you know. And I don't feel bad for him, you know, because he knows who Donald Trump was. He knew who he was getting into it. You know, these two guys have known each other for a while now. He knew all about Donald Trump, and he knew that Donald Trump wasn't going to stick his neck out for him in any fucking way whatsoever. So, too fucking bad. Fuck Roger Stone. All right. Some other shit, you know. This kind of gets me onto the subject. Like, okay, so another thing that happened recently, there's this whistleblower, you know, in the Trump, you know, fucking impeachment hearings that the Republicans really want to get this guy up and on the stand, right? And for a while, they didn't know who he was until somebody leaked his name, right? And Don Jr. tweeted his name. Now, officially, no one has confirmed if this is the guy or not, but it's looking like it's him. And here's the thing about that. That's illegal. All right. You're not supposed to, spread personal information about a whistleblower, especially one that's under federal protection. Now they're saying that, okay, he can't be held responsible for this because he doesn't actually work for the government, right? But if you or I were to actually do what Donald Jr. did, we'd go to prison. Okay. Make no mistake about it. They'd find some way to throw us in prison. If for example, if I went and leaked the name of a federally protected whistleblower, I'd be in fucking jail. All right. They'd come at, if they couldn't get me for that, they'd come after me for something else. Right. And they'd do the same to you. And the reason why Donald Jr. is not going to prison for this is because he's the son of the president and he's rich and powerful. And that just kind of shows that, there's two Americas. There's two laws in this country. There's laws for the rich and powerful people like Donald Jr. and there's laws for us. And that's why he can break the law like that and get away with it. That's why Donald Trump can break the law like that and get away with it, even when he wasn't the president. For years, motherfuckers pulling scams on people left and right, right? And, nobody ever does anything to him. But if you do it or if I do it, they come down like a ton of fucking bricks. And that's just simply because, that's how capitalism works. The police defend capital. And the more capital you have, right, the richer you have, the more money you have, the more the state, invests in your protection, right? Now, that's why it makes me happy, getting back to what we were talking about before, to see Roger Stone go to prison, because it gives me faith in the system a little bit, That rich people bias that the system has is not an easy thing to get over. And the fact that, this guy actually got convicted, right, despite all of his money and power, gives me hope, And I only hope that more of them go to fucking jail, right? So anyway, let's move on to some other less political things. Some memes. The word based, that's something I'm hearing a lot. You hear that from conservatives and shit. Based. What the fuck does it mean? Basically, you'll hear this whenever you see like a conservative or racist or something say something that's very, red pilly, I guess is the word, red pill like or whatever. Usually, which that means is something that translates into something that's very racist or sexist. A guy will comment and say based, and it's a compliment, basically saying that it's based in conservative values, which in real life, like based in reality, right? Which is funny because in real life, conservative values and conservative thought is based in the opposite of reality. Okay, it's not based in real life. Conservative, especially conservative thought, it's not. If you ever watch Ben Shapiro talk, or something like that, or what's that other guy, Prager University, Dennis Prager, and you'll see how they'll kind of pussyfoot around things. Like, for example, they'll say some shit like, yeah, this is a Christian nation, or whatnot. And then when you challenge them on it, they'll pussyfoot around the actual facts, because in real life, it's not a Christian nation. In real life, it never was, or they'll talk about like belief, the belief in God or something like that. And then they'll play word games, right? And this is kind of what it comes down to. What it comes down to is basically, it's all about feelings, which is funny because they like to project the opposite. Ben Shapiro says shit like facts over feelings. Facts don't care about your feelings, right? But in real life, everything the fucking guy believes in has to do with his feelings, The Western world is superior, right? Women should be subservient to men. Right. Capitalism is the greatest system, economic system known to man, that kind of thing. Right. It's all shit that's, based on their feelings. It's because they want it to be like that. And you can make arguments for all of these things. Personally, myself, I'm a capitalist. I personally think that the Western world is great, but none of those things are actually true. They're all opinions, right? They're all opinions, and there's other systems out there, and there's other, you know, um, there's other, there's other truths. Now, well, I wouldn't say other truths, but there's other things out there, and other opinions, right? That, like, I don't know. This shit just doesn't match with reality. You know what I mean? For example, like an example you'll hear of this, like, I know I'm kind of ranting, I'm kind of like going off subject here. So let's get back to base. You'll see this shit a lot on, like, say, red pill forums, that kind of thing, right? And they'll talk about, like, for example, women have no agency, AWOLT, women are children, and then you'll hear a guy say based. It's like, none of that shit is based in reality. The I don't know. It's just really kind of ridiculous. It's ridiculous how conservatives tend to just pat themselves on the back when they say really stupid fucking shit. Anyhow, I'll try not to rant so much here, because that one right there, I just realized I just kind of went off on like 16 different tangents and shit. But oh well. This is my first time ever streaming, so let's move on. What else we got here? Okay, boomer. That's another thing. Now, apparently, this is another meme, right? Where it's kind of been going around here, where basically you're starting to see news outlets and shit cover this, like Fox News, that kind of thing. And it's kind of like a war amongst the generations kind of thing, where basically young millennials and Generation Z, or whatever the fuck they're called, will see some old guy like me, rant and rave about a bunch of shit, and they'll say, okay, boomer. And it's kind of like a way of just dismissing somebody, because they're old. Right. But the thing about it is, it's not that simple, because a lot of it has to do with, this perceived notion that millennials are entitled to things. Like, you'll see that a lot from, like, the boomer, baby boomers and shit, saying that millennials are entitled and they don't work, and all these news elements and stuff about how millennials are killing all these different industries, and they're not having families, they're not buying houses, they're not eating out, stuff like that. And it's because they don't have any money, as a demographic. They don't make a lot of money, and the reason they don't make a lot of money is because the economy is fucking horrible, right? And a lot of these people, the millennials, came into age during the fucking economic downturn that happened after 2008, right? Which, I don't know if you remember 2008. I mean, I know that's 11 years ago, so it's like ancient fucking history to people. But, the economy just collapsed because of 8 years of Bush-Reagan economics, completely destroyed the economy. Our money was on fire. Banks were going out of business. People were losing their life savings, right? Because of, conservative Republican policies in regards to banking deregulations and stuff like that. That's what caused the economic downturn. So an entire generation of people come of age and can't find any work. So what happens when, and this happens all the time, whenever there's economic downturn, people go back to college. Okay, well, college is now incredibly expensive. It was really expensive back then. It's more expensive now. It can cost you $50, $60, $70, $80,000 just to go to, like, a state school, for 4 years, right? Incredibly expensive. So people couldn't afford it, so they took out loans. And I remember this because even back in, like, 2004, 2005, I remember this was in the news. There was a bill that went through Congress that basically took away, the ability to declare bankruptcy and remove college loans. You used to be able to do that back in the day. You would declare bankruptcy and all of your debts would get wiped, right? They specifically took that away for college loans, right? And I remember that was a big thing in the news, and it's like they knew this was going to happen, And then sure enough, the economy takes a downturn. Millions of kids get these overpriced loans to go to school because they need the higher education in order to get a job now, because the economy is shitty and there's no jobs, so there's increased competition for the jobs that are left. So that way it's like, you ever see these things on like Reddit and stuff where it's like there'll be a job posting for like, $15 an hour and they want a fucking master's degree, right? That's no joke. That shit's real, and now there's an entire generation of kids who are overeducated and underemployed and have $1 trillion worth of college debt to pay off. Some of these people are going to be paying this off for decades to come because they can't find sufficient work in order to make enough money to pay this shit off. They're pissed. They have no money, right? They see the fucking world going to shit everywhere, wars on every fucking continent, right? The Middle East falling apart, wars in Syria and Afghanistan and Iraq that have been happening for, 20 years now. Like, how long? When did we invade Iraq? 2002? What is that? 17 years? That the Afghanistan, 2002, Iraq, right? 17 years that we've still been there, perpetual fucking war. It's kind of like 1984, right? They see that shit happening. They see global warming, global climate change, which is pretty much undeniable nowadays, right? You got entire fucking cities underwater and stuff, You got fucking forest fires all over the fucking country, brush fires and shit in California. I made a video about that stuff. Check out my video from last year. This time, it was actually around this time last year that, I had to evacuate my fucking house, right, for 2 days. I was scared shitless. I had no idea what was happening. I couldn't get updates. I was going on Twitter and stuff trying to, because there's this, there's one called VC Fire Scanner, right, which is in my area, posting updates. I was like, there was one news channel that would actually overlay the streets as they were flying over with helicopters, and I was trying to glean from that. It's like, fuck, is my house burning down? I don't know, right? That shit is not funny. That's scary shit, And they see this, and this is not just happening in California. It's all over the world. Forest fires in the Arctic, right? Burning down the rainforest, the fucking Great Barrier Reef, dying and stuff like that, right? A giant, continent-sized fucking island of plastic fucking bottles in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. They see all of this shit and they're pissed off, and they look and they go, well, who fucking caused all this? It wasn't them, right? They're kids. They didn't cause any of this shit. No, who caused all of these fucking problems in the world? The people with all the money, the baby boomers, okay? The people who, and here's the thing, okay? Baby boomers, when they say shit like, kids are entitled, baby boomers are the most entitled generation that has ever existed, okay? Just look at the way that advertising, towards baby boomers is done, right? I want it now. I want to get it now, right? I'm serious. Look this shit up. Look up advertising towards baby boomers, and they'll show like car commercials where it's like luxury automobiles that you can take home today, right? Stuff like that. They want it now. It's a generation of kids who grew up, right, after World War II, whose parents went through the Great Depression and didn't have shit, and so they languished. Then they were born during a great economic upturn in the 50s, and their parents had all this money, and what did they do with it? They spoiled their fucking kids rotten, and some things they did were actually kind of great. The civil rights movement, for example, right? That's awesome. But really, not much else. I mean, the world was in a pretty shitty state today, because of the fucking baby boomers, let's not forget, president's a baby boomer, right? Congress, Nancy Pelosi's a baby boomer. You know, these are the people that are in power right now, and they're not doing very much to fucking fix these problems. Okay, they're causing it. They're causing the fucking problem. So, yeah, you know, that's kind of what OK Boomer is all about. It's like dismissing, yeah, OK Boomer, shut the fuck up. You know, dismissing these fucking people because they're not fixing anything. You know, and it's kind of like if you're causing the problems, you don't have much right to like talk about it. You know, sort of like I don't know, it's yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's just funny how like this generation, you know, baby boomer people can't handle this casual dismissal. It's driving them fucking nuts. You know, there's like videos on Fox News and stuff. I wanted to actually like show that. Damn it, I got to set up this fucking streaming software. So that we can like next time I want to be able to actually play the video and make comments on it and stuff, you know. That'd be kind of cool. Let's do one more thing. God damn, it's already 36 minutes. Wow. Time flies here when you're doing this shit, huh? You know. Let's do one more thing. So one more little meme that I'm noticing is, you know, I went on 4chan the other day on poll actually, which is funny because little side tangent here. It surprised me that it's not as well. No, okay. I was about to say it's not as racist as it used to be, but no, that's not true. It's racist as fuck, right? But it's not as conservative, I guess is the right way to say. So the last time I spent a large amount of time on 4chan was right around the election. And it was like pretty much 100% pro-Trump, pro-Republican, you know, very, very conservative. And a lot of the really, really ridiculous conspiracy theories and shit about Hillary Clinton and all that came out of there, you know, out of poll and out of 8chan, that kind of thing. I haven't been to 8chan recently because that place is a fucking cesspool. But, you know, I visited poll the other day and it seems like it's not as pro-Republican as it used to be, you know. You're starting to see people actually make fun of Donald Trump on there, which I was like surprised. It's like, wow, really? Because you never saw that shit, you know, 3 years ago, right? It was all very anti-Hillary, you know, pro-Trump kind of thing. He's going to win every state is one that I remember somebody posting, you know. And now you're starting, especially with the impeachment thing going there. I'm starting to see some negative posts about Donald Trump on there. I'm actually surprised. It's like, wow, you know, maybe it's not as monolithic a block of, you know, Republican, conservative, racist fucking people as you think. You know, I still did see a lot of racism on there. You know, a ton of it, right? Like every other post was somebody complaining about Jews or black people, right? So that's no surprise. And it seems like it's going back to how it was before. So way back in the day, 4chan used to be more of a libertarian kind of thing, you know, very, and it was also a lot more liberal than it is now. And now it seems like it's going back to being a libertarian kind of, you know, the politics are more libertarian, less conservative, less Republican, but it still has a very, very loud white nationalist Nazi minority that's there. And, you know, and I'm even starting to see people kind of turn against that a little bit, calling, you know, every once in a while, it's still very like not as big as I would like it to be, but you're starting to see people turning against the fucking Nazis on there, you know, calling them LARPers, shit like that, you know, saying, excuse me, I don't speak German, that kind of thing. You know, you're starting to see that happen. But still, though, a lot of white nationalist bullshit gets posted there. So, but anyway, one thing I did notice, all right, that tangent over, let's get back to what I was going to talk about. One thing I did see was another sort of meme that's popped up where they're starting to take pictures of Jewish people and color them blue, right? Which is like, what the fuck is this, you know? And it's interesting because, you know, you look at it, right? What it is basically, it's a conversation starter, right? it's a way of attempting to sneak this kind of highly racist white nationalist shit into everyday conversations in an attempt to normalize it. That's what it is. Okay. And you're starting to see shit like this posted on Facebook, stuff like that. And even one of the posts I saw, the guy kind of outlined the plan saying, color the Jews blue, make a throwaway account, go on Reddit, go on Facebook, go on Twitter, post this stuff, get the conversation going. And they do it with, throwaways because they know they're going to get banned when people find out what it is. And it's just like, here's the thing. Some of this shit, these people, oh, sorry, that's my cat. You okay, kitty? Come on, kitty. Don't, come on, kitty. All right. Sorry, cat is my cat here is really old. But I wanted to show you one of these things here. Okay. This one, okay, this is going to look like shit because I'm going to be pointing the webcam at the fucking cam, This is one that I saw, the Silicon Six, all billionaires, all Americans, right? And who would we got on here? We have Larry Page, Susan Wojcik, whatever the fuck her name is. I can't even going to try to pronounce that. Mark Zuckerberg, Sergey Brin, Sergey Brin, whatever, right? This is one that came to my attention. Let's set it back up. These guys are not even, some of these guys aren't even Jewish on here. Larry Page from Google, he's not Jewish. His father was Jewish, Another one is this guy, Sergey Brin. He's not Jewish either, right? And it's sort of like, they call them crypto Jews. You know what I mean? Larry, what's that guy's name again? Larry Page, his father was Jewish. So it's like, you don't even have to be Jewish yourself. You just need a relative that was Jewish. Like traditionally, Judaism was passed down through the mother's line. So, does that mean if your father's Jewish, are you Jewish? Are you ethnically Jewish? Right? Well, how much can it be diluted until you're no longer a Jew? Because I think you're going to find that pretty much, if that counts, everybody somewhere along the line is going to have a Jewish ancestor of some amount, sometime back in the day. So when do you become not Jewish anymore? Like, what, 50%, 40%, 20%, 8%, is it the same rule? Like you'll hear from white nationalists, they'll talk about the one drop of blood rule, kind of like if you have one drop of black, black blood from black people in your family line, then you're not white, right? Does it work the same way with Judaism? I don't know. Can you deconvert from this, or are you just still always a Jew, even if you have like, your great grandmother or something, and you haven't been Jewish, your family hasn't been Jewish for generations? Does that still count? It's all kind of just bullshit. That's the thing with all of this ridiculous white nationalist shit, is that if you just even the most cursory glance, the even just like the smallest attempt to kind of, make sense of any of this shit, it just all falls apart, completely. It's like, I don't know. It's just another way that they're trying to weaponize social media. That's what it is. That's what all of this shit is all about. All of this, the okay to be white thing and the okay symbol, and the fucking stupid thing where they drink milk and all of that shit. And this thing, coloring Jewish people blue. It's all just attempts to try to sneak it into the conversation because they want to fucking, normalize it, right? Because they have these ridiculous fantasies that one day there's going to be a race war and, they'll kill everyone who isn't white. That's basically what it is. They want to, this is the plan. Okay. And you'll see this a lot on 4chan and Poll and stuff like that too. There's lots of threads about the coming fucking race war, day of the rope kind of shit, right? And it's all just this ridiculous fantasy, right? Here's the idea. They want to retreat to the Pacific Northwest, right? Forcibly kill or deport anyone who isn't white and form their own country. And the way they're going to do it is they're going to isolate the major cities, you know, because they think that all white people in the country are going to join them and isolate the major cities and that everyone in the cities will starve. And it's like, okay, first off, all the white people in the country are not going to join you. Okay, that's never going to happen. Okay. You know that the number of active white nationalists is something around people who are willing to actually do actions, go protest, stuff like that. Somewhere around 1,200. You know, look at that Unite the Right rally that they had a couple years ago. How many people were at that thing? You know, what? Something like 1,000, right? Those are the guys who are willing to actually spend money and travel and go out and actually put their money where their mouth is to show, you know, to go to a rally, right? The biggest one in the country for these guys, right? How many counter protesters were at that thing, you know, the next day? They were like outnumbered like 5-1. All right. That's how many people, just even the local area, just decided to get up and counter protest this shit. Okay. So, no, all right. You're very, you know, the number of practicing actual white nationalists is incredibly small. The number of racist white people is shrinking every year. There might even be more than that. You know, I would estimate somewhere around 25% of the country, right? And that percent that actually kind of corresponds with Trump's base. That's how many people I would say. Even that is shrinking every year. Even those people, even the Trump supporters, you couldn't count those people among you anyway. You know, because those people, to them, they see themselves as not being racists, right? They might have they have conservative values that a lot of liberal people like me call out as being racist because there are racial aspects to them. But to them, they're not racist. They're not white nationalists. They don't want to kill people, forcibly deport people, or sterilize black people, shit like that. They don't want to do any of that stuff, right? That's ridiculous. Okay. This is the thing about, you know, these guys don't get, you know, about the culture war and all that, is that they fucking lost. They lost the culture war. The culture war is over, right? It was over a long time ago. You know, even these people are talking about shit like abortion rights, you know, that kind of thing, drug legalization, right? Premarital sex, that kind of thing. That's what the fucking culture war was about, right? It shifted now into race, and you know, the fact is we won all the other shit, right? That's what the culture war was really about back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, right? Was basically separating, you know, conservative values, getting rid of conservative values, you know, the whole no sex before marriage thing. That's what abortion is really about. You know, abortion rights are really about sex before marriage, not really the right of, you know, when a fetus is able to survive outside of the womb, shit like that. No, it isn't, right? Because if it was about that, then conservative people, Republicans, would have funded orphanages, right? They'd have organizations that would sponsor young women, right? Underage girls who get pregnant, stuff like that, who would sponsor them and then voluntarily take their children when they're put up for adoption. That's what they would do. And they don't do that because it's not really about the lives of the children. It's really about premarital sex and controlling women's lives. Okay. That's what it's really about. Drug legalization is not really about getting high and ruining someone's lives. Okay. Because if it was, the conservatives would, you know, the Republicans, the conservatives would have funded things like drug rehabs and preventive programs. But no, they don't do that. They what's their answer? Just say no, right? Because it's not about that. It's really about control, right? Because people who tend to smoke marijuana when they're young and do drugs tend to not also be conservative. They tend to think that, you know, the conservative Christian culture that we have is a load of fucking shit. That's what it's really about. And also there's a racial component in there. Right? There's a lot of, you know, you can look that up too, you know, the racist reasons why marijuana was banned and, you know, that kind of thing back in the day. I don't want to get into that right now. Anyway, and that's really what it's all coming down to, folks. And it kind of makes me a little, you know, a little happy to see that we've moved past those things. And now this is sort of like the last battle is race and fighting against the white nationalists, because that they're sort of like the last holdouts, you know. And I think if we keep it going, you know, within maybe 20 years, these guys will be gone too. And there might be, you know, 1% of what they're at now. They're kind of resurging now. It seems like that they're resurging, but they're really not. You know, their numbers have not significantly increased. In fact, they've decreased a lot. If you look back in the 50s and the 60s, you know, the number of active, say, Klansmen in the country, you know, the Ku Klux Klan used to be really huge in the United States, and now it's like nothing, right? These guys are clowns. Like, whenever you see them at rallies and shit, they're like the guys who can't get jobs, you know. They're like fuck ups and criminals with like tattoos and beards and like fucking 17 different piercings and like all of this shit. And they, you know, they believe this stuff because they can't make anything of themselves in their own lives, you know. And that was like, actually, if you look at Richard Spencer, for example, that was his whole thing. He was trying to like change the image of white nationalism, and it doesn't seem to be working. It doesn't seem to be working because you know, respectable, normal, ordinary people who like are professionals are also intelligent enough to not be white nationalists, right? And even if they're just normal, ordinary racists, they're not going to stick their necks out for this shit, you know. So anyway, how do we get onto this? I don't know. This has been interesting, folks. We're getting up close to an hour here. I think I'm going to call it quits. Maybe next time I'll be a little more prepared, and I'll have the software set up so that we can actually like go over stuff and I can show you things that I'm talking about. But, you know, tell me, what should I talk about during this? You know, I mean, I'm thinking like I might make this sort of maybe even a weekly thing where I talk about news, I show some videos, you know, maybe we can look at some fucking movie trailers or something, you know. I don't know. I mean, I'm still kind of thinking about this kind of thing, what kind of format I want to have here. Maybe I'll actually get some people. We could do like a fucking Google Hangout or something, and I can like interview somebody or whatever. Who knows? It's all open. So anyway, folks, that's all I got. Adios.